Welcome to Trojans Live, a new season presented by Monster Energy on ESPN LA 710 across the USC Trojans Media Network. I am Jordan Moore, back with my favorite people, the All-American Sean Cody, the quarterback Cody Kessler, and our head coach Lincoln Riley. USC's head coach interview is presented by I Trust Capital, the official crypto platform of the USC Trojans. Coach, you head into year 4. When I say that, does it sound like a long time? Does it sound like you just got here? What do you think of when I say year 4?
That's gone by. It's gone by quickly. It has. It doesn't feel like that long to me, to be completely honest. People have brought that up. You kind of hear at the beginning of the year. You start to reflect a little bit on it. It's been a fun few years, but this is typically when it gets really fun. So excited to be here and excited about the team and opportunity coming up this season.
Coach, training camp wraps up, getting into week 1 here. What'd you learn about this team in training camp? Every year, obviously, is a new year with each team. You got a different set of characters to work with. What'd you learn during training camp about this squad?
Oh, a lot. I think you felt the impact of I think Tremaine Carroll, on our strength staff, job they did with our guys and pretty short notice, right? A couple of months' work. I felt that was apparent in some of the details, just kind of the discipline within the team. I thought was coming in was in a really good place. I thought we were really consistently competitive during camp. We really never had that day where you got to drag it out of them. You got to go, really motivate them. You could tell they're not really ready to practice. That day just never really showed up, which I thought was pretty cool. Typically it does.
I thought those days were manufactured by the coaches. Like, we're going to have one of those days.
Yeah, I'm. Trust me, I'll jump on one of those easily. But we really. They never really gave us the opportunity. It was, and I think a lot of that is just the competitiveness of the group, the depth. There's so many different position competitions going on. Whether it's who's going to start or who's going to rep, or it's just every room. It's just like competition all over the place. So I think guys, just you're not able to fall off. If you do that the other guy's going to separate from you. So. And then I would say the lines of scrimmage just continue to get better. They continue to feel different. There continues to be more depth, more talent, more size. And that's kind of been a build each year. But I would say you certainly felt a difference on the line of scrimmage.
Coach, I'm sure you and Jay Maava spent a lot of time together this offseason, watched a ton of film, did some self-scouting. What's the most important thing he needs to improve on going into this year to take that next step at the quarterback spot?
Oh, it's honestly tough to narrow it down to one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just his decision making and situational decision making is probably the biggest thing, and I think that's already started to show up throughout spring and certainly here in the fall camp. I mean, I think he's not just out there trying to run plays anymore. I mean, I think he has a much different understanding than he did a year ago on, why we're doing things, on how his decisions are going to fluctuate depending on the situation and where we're at, and understanding when we can afford to take chances and be really aggressive and times where we don't. And his overall feel for not just the offense, but like playing the game, kind of through the offense, I like to say is just in a very, very different place. And so, that's part of the growth that we expected and challenged him and ourselves as coaches. And fall camp, it's been pretty high level quarterback play.
You're listening to the head coach Lincoln Riley on Trojans Live. Coach, one of the things you guys have been really good at doing in the last 3 years is flipping over the running back room and still having an elite guy. But it's been a new guy each of the last 3 years. It'll likely be a new guy this year, although you do have some returner in there. What does this room look like? Has there been like an alpha dog that separated himself like what he did last year, or do you envision maybe more role-oriented backs? What does that room look like?
Yeah, I think it'll unfold a little bit as the season goes on. I think I think Wayman Jordan will be the guy that trots out there first. I think he's been the most consistent and the most, I think you'd probably say, well-rounded back from. And obviously, we're excited to see those guys live. You know, then this modern day football, whether NFL or college, you don't have the opportunities to go live nearly as much as we all used to. And so, obviously at that position, that's probably the toughest one to evaluate without going live offensively. So, but Wayman's, been really productive. We're eager to see him. There's a lot of production at the college level already that this guy's had. And Eli Sanders, I think, has had one of the strongest training camps of any player at any position. He had a good spring, but he's had a great training camp. So I think his experience, his explosiveness is definitely going to factor in for us. And then I think, Brian Jackson obviously returning is a big deal. Everybody's seen the power, the size, and I think he really adds that to this room. And then I think the two guys that may be a little bit X factors in the room, King Miller has just continued to impress. I think his yards per carry in our practice is the highest of anybody in the room. It just feels like he rips off a big run or two almost every single day. And then we'll see how it plays out with Harry Dalton. I mean, Harry is certainly one of, if not the most physically gifted back in the room. He's a young guy that's trying to figure it out and is learning, but has some high upside as well. So yeah, I think I'm pretty excited about the room. We've had some good rooms, as you referenced. I'll put it this way: I'll be disappointed if it's not the best room that we've had since we've been at SC.
Those are big statements. Obviously, you talk about running backs. You gotta look at the big guys who are creating those holes for him, Coach. A new coach and not a new face, maybe, in Coach Hansen. He's stepping in there for you. You got some transfers in, some transfers out. Obviously, Elijah Page at that left tackle position, but then maybe a lot of position battles kind of going on. The Winfield situation. What's that group look like? Is that something that's going to be going into the season? Kind of we're figuring out or solidify positions as you go into week one here.
Well, I think it's definitely started to solidify. Certainly play with with Elijah at left tackle. With Alani at right guard. I would imagine we'll end up playing both the center some, both Killian O'Connor and John Ray Reed. Tobias Raymond is certainly going to start. He gives us some position flexibility, as does Justin Tanu. I think those two are likely starters for us, and now it's starting to work through sort of just some of the different potential lineup changes. And again, having a few guys that do bring major position flexibility has been great. Micah Banuelos, I think, is right there on the edge. I'd put Kalen Miller, King's brother, right there on the edge of it, too, that are definitely in kind of that top group that can go in there and play, no doubt. And then I think our development of guys like Hayden Treater and Vicona, Aaron Dunn, Makai Sena, like that is going to be really critical, because at some point you're going to need these guys. And they're showing up, like they all shown some ability here in the beginning. And I think the in-season development of those guys and getting a couple of those guys ready to go in and be quality backups and be ready to play meaningful snaps will go a long ways.
When they're making some noise on scout team over there, then you can say, hey man, when those starters don't want to go up against scout team, they're making the right steps.
Then that's all right.
Coach, right. Some very good returners on both sides of the football, but one that I'm sure everyone's excited about is number 7 back there at that safety spot. How important is it to have Kamari Ramsey back on the defensive side of the ball?
I think it's really important, especially when you look at all the turnover in the secondary for us. Again, our most experienced defensive player in terms of this system. Obviously one of our most productive defensive players. The stability, the playmaking ability coming back in the secondary was very, very important. And then I think it's for Kamari, it's the leadership piece of it. That's something we've really pushed him in some ways, kind of like Jaden on the offensive side, is two of your better players, two guys that we need to step up and be leaders that maybe in the past haven't always jumped to the front of the line to lead or to kind of to let their own personality kind of show within the defense or within the offense. And Kamari has really taken to that. He's become much more vocal with our guys, which I think has been important. You feel his presence more than just the way he plays, and that's been important for our defense. So he's had a great camp. I think our offensive players are glad they don't have to go against him anymore for a while.
Let's talk some more defense when we come back. Ready to take it to the next level. Unleash the beast this college tailgate season with Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet. Monster Energy. Unleash the beast. And Trojans Live is sponsored by Pechanga Resort Casino, proud partner of USC football. That first game is coming up Saturday, USC versus Missouri State. It's a 4:30 kick. Trojan Tailgate Show will be live at 2:30 from a new spot. We'll be up in the Peristyle, so come visit us there. More with Coach Riley next on Trojans Live.
This is the ESPN LA USC Trojan Media Network, presented by Pechanga Resort Casino.
We get you ready for the kickoff of USC Trojans football Saturday at the Coliseum against the Missouri State Bears. Once again, more with head coach Lincoln Riley right now on Trojans Live. Once again, here's your host, Jordan Moore.
Hey, Trojan fans. Did you know the Ralph's app gives you easy access to weekly sales and personalized coupons? You can earn fuel points too. Check out the app today and save while you cheer us on to another great season. Ralph's, proud partner of USC Athletics and Stone IPA, has inspired a generation of brewers and beer lovers. Made in Southern California, Stone Brewing's first anniversary ale continues to be today's iconic West Coast style IPA. Crisp, light-bodied, and packed with hoppy flavor. Located at find.stonebrewing.com. Jordan Moore, Sean Cody Kessler, and the head coach, Lincoln Riley, kind enough to stay with us here for another segment. Coach, you wish college football had preseason games, or I mean, the NFL has these joint practices now, so you could do it behind closed doors, or do you feel like you know enough about your team from camp in summer and spring that you know what's going to be out there on Saturday?
I would be a big proponent of the joint practices. I mean, I think you could do it regionally. Be minimal travel. I've always thought that made like too much sense. Each team ought to be able to do that one time. You get a chance to compete against somebody else, helps you evaluate your roster a little bit. Like I understand not doing the preseason games and all that. We're built a little bit different than the NFL. I get that, but the joint practices to me are like that would be just way too easy to do. It'd be awesome just for your guys to get some experience, and because again, the first game counts, like it's real, and so you'd love to be able to have a little bit of competition before that.
Coach, defensively, last year under Coach Lynn for the first time, made some progress as the year went on, in different statistics, look better, but still need to take some steps. What are the areas that you'd like to see the defense take steps forward? Yeah,
I mean, that's been the kind of goal and the talk in our building has been, we were statistically the most improved defense in the country last year. That's great, but this isn't last year anymore. Now it's like, no, take that step to be one of the best defenses in the country, period. And so, yeah, I think a lot of it starts up front, like great defensive play does. And I think, we've added obviously some size, some depth there on the defensive line, and having the ability to control the run game more, having the ability to pressure or to affect the passer with 3- and 4-man rushes more is a big piece of that. And that's been something that, our returning players, the new players we added, our coaches, I mean, everything that we've done has been really geared towards, just being more impactful consistently on the defensive front. I do think the talent and depth at linebacker is going to show up. The length, it's a different looking group than a year ago, and the depth was a little bit of a question mark for us coming in, and I think is going to become a strength. We feel great about the safety position. I think we've got a group of safeties back there that I wouldn't trade for anybody. And I think how we come along, develop, stay healthy at the corner position will be a big kind of part of it as well. But I mean, this group is, you take a group that made all the improvements we did. I feel like it's a better roster. We obviously added some really great pieces on the coaching staff. I feel like we are very teed up to go have a great year defensively.
Coach, stepping away from the X's and O's a little bit, and I've tried to tell people before, but unless you've experienced it, it's hard to put into words how demanding both physically and mentally camp can be, and a season in general, right? You go straight from fall camp into 5 months of a season. There's a lot of sacrifices that are made, and the hardest part is stepping away from the family, right? And the time that you don't get to spend with them. You've got a great family at home with your wife, Caitlin, your daughters, Sloan and Stella. How important is it as a coach, or for all your coaches, to have a great support system at home so you can go out and do what you love every day?
Oh, vital. I still kind of I don't know how somebody could do this job without that.
Yeah.
I mean, it pulls at you, and then there's kind of the you're in the public eye, obviously, a lot, and that can be good, but it can also bring its challenges too. And so now having those support systems is super important. And we've tried to do everything we can to adapt to living here in LA and still being able to have our families be a big part of what we do. And then I know we've talked at other points the hires that we made in personnel, with Chad Bowden and that entire team. I mean, some of that was to optimize other areas, but some of that also was to pull away a little bit from some of these coaches in a few areas where, you did have a little bit more of a life outside of the job and could be more present with family and spread it out a little bit, I guess, if you will. And so that's been a great part of those hires, and I think all of us are, rested, recharged, and ready, and certainly thankful for the support systems we have at home.
That's awesome.
You're listening to the head coach, Lincoln Riley, on Trojans Live. I don't think we've talked about the receiver position yet. You obviously have the two big names in Lemon and Lane at the top. What's next? Is there a clear, third receiver who's going to hop out there on the first play on Saturday? Is that more of an open competition for who's 3, 4, 5? Those guys that we know you like to change up a receiver.
Yeah, I think that's certainly going to evolve. We're gonna play a handful of guys on Saturday, but I mean, guys like Zacharias Williams, Prince, Jay Fair, Tanook Hines, DJ Jordan, Jaden Richardson. I mean, those will be certainly kind of that first group of guys that we look at. But there's some intriguing skill sets there. There really is. There's some guys that have really made some moves in camp, and some guys that our quarterbacks and our coaches are very confident in. And so, yeah, I know obviously, we got a pretty good idea with Jacoby and Mackay about, the kind of players they are, and I think they've both improved as well. But we're not just gonna be a two-man show there. We've got some other guys that can play, and I think people are gonna see that pretty quick.
Coach, in the offseason, when I get around town, fans tend to ask me, "Hey, Sean, what's going on? The Trojans aren't in the top 25. What's going on? Why aren't the Trojans in the top 25?" I'm like, a lot of that stuff is based off last year and records, and they don't account for what's going on here. Do you guys, talk about that with the team? Do you use that as, a chip on your shoulder? Is that like a underdog mentality kind of thing? Is that something you use, or is that something you don't talk about with the team? How do you handle that kind of situation?
Yeah, I think I trust my feel on it a little bit. I don't know that it's something that you can necessarily just like have the manual and I'm going to use something like that every time or not. I think there's a time and place for it. The preseason stuff I've never got totally wrapped up into because I've always said that's just something for everybody to talk about until there's actually football games. Yep. And then here in a couple weeks, nobody's going to give a damn about where anybody was ranked in the beginning because it's not going to matter. So, but it's at the same time, are we aware of it? Are we excited to go show everyone the way that we're going to play? Damn right we are. Absolutely.
Well, here we go. Let's do it then.
Go.
Saturday, USC versus Missouri State, 4:30 kick. Let's pack the Coliseum for that one and come visit us at the Trojan Tailgate Show. We will go on to 2:30. If you can't make it to the game, game is on Big Ten Network for the opener, and we'll be right here on ESPN LA 710 across the USC Trojans Media Network. Thank you, Coach. Big exciting part of this team is this defensive front. Braylon Shelby is a big part of it, and he is next on Trojans Live.